Hello and welcome back to Math 8. This is a video over Section 8, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying linear functions, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to determine what the slope and y-intercept are and what they represent in real-world functional relationships, okay? We use real-world scenarios of linear functions to write equations in slope-intercept form, and we're going to evaluate inputs and outputs for linear equations in slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some vocab before we do anything, okay? Let me change my pen up. So some vocab, all right? And let's talk, I'm going to talk about x values first, okay? Oftentimes we use the words domain, input, and the independent variable, okay? And then we have y values, okay, which we often will call the range, the output, or the dependent variable. Now, dependent variable, okay. And what I want to talk about mostly is these words here. Because these words, independent variable and dependent variable, are going to help us identify what, you know, what is the x value, what does it mean, and what is the y value, what does it mean. So here's the idea, okay? The y values, we call that the dependent variable because they depend on what x is, okay? X is independent. Okay, x, and when we say independent, it's like we can choose whatever x values. So you can choose x values, okay? But the y values, okay, they depend on x, okay? And that's going to help us, okay? So just as long as we have the distinguished, you know, difference between what an x value is and what a y value is, you know, then we can go forth and, you know, kind of start this stuff. So let's go through and let's talk about this scenario here. Okay. So in this table, okay, x represents miles driven and y represents cost to travel by taxi. Okay. So the first thing they want us to do is they want us to find the slope. Then they want us to find the y-intercept, and then we want to write the equation in slope-intercept form. And what we want to do is kind of talk about what that means. So let's just do what we've been doing, okay, and let's calculate some things here. So what I'm going to do is figure out the difference between 6.5 and 11.75. Okay, so I'm going to take 11.75 and subtract 6.5, and that's going to give me 5.25. Okay, same thing over here. If I take 17 minus 11.75, that's going to give me 5.25. Okay, and then what we have is our x values increase by 3. Okay, and that's miles. So what we know is that for every 3 miles, okay, and I'm just going to do this. I'm going to write that my slope m is equal to 5.25 divided by 3, okay? And let's go ahead and just do that. Let's take 5.25 and divide that by 3. Let's see what we get. And this is going to give us a slope, okay, of m is equal to 1.75. Now, let's think about something here, all right? When I divided these two things, and let me I'm going to erase this. I'm going to write this over here. Okay, let me write at m, whoops, m is equal to 1.75. Now, let's think about what this means in context, okay? And so what this means is that we're going to take 5.25, this is cost, okay, total cost, divided by 3 miles. Now, when I divide these out, we should get something in context here. All right, and when we divide them out, we get 1.75. And what that is is that's cost per mile. Okay, and this is what we call our unit rate, all right, because this is what's, when our denominator is 1, okay, per 1 mile, how much money are we spending, okay? And so that's what we've got, and that's our slope, okay? Now, we'll write that as just 1.75, but it's good to have some context as to what this whole thing means, okay? Oh, man. Okay, I wrote this part down here in the wrong part, put it in the y-intercept. Okay, so I'm going to do my y-intercept up here. So here's what I got. I'm going to use my slope, m equals 1.75. I'm going to use the point where x equals 2 and y is equal to 6.5, okay, to find our y-intercept. Okay, so I'm just doing the algebra that we learned in last section. So y is equal to mx plus b. So we put 6.5 is equal to 1.75 times 2 and then plus b. Now if I take 1.75 and multiply it by 2, that's going to give me 3.5, okay? And that's equal to 6.5 plus b. Subtract 3.5 from both sides. And so we get that b, 6.5 minus 3.5, gives me 3. Okay, so that's my y-intercept. Okay, so my y-intercept is 3, okay? And, all right, and so we want to write our equation in slope-intercept form. So what I would write is this. Y is equal to, well, let me not write that, 1.75x and then plus 3. So this situation represents, okay, or this equation represents the situation here. And what we have to realize is, what does the slope mean? What does the y-intercept mean? So our slope, okay, represents a cost of $1.75 per mile. Okay, our y-intercept means that if we drive 0 miles, okay, it's still going to cost us $3. All right, and what we're going to get is our y-intercept is $3 to get in the cab. Okay, so we also can call this an initial fee. Okay, because right off the bat, if we don't drive anywhere, we plug in 0 miles, we're still going to be charged $3. And when you get in a cab, if you ever do that like in New York City or something like that, you automatically get in the cab and all of a sudden they automatically charge you a certain amount of money. And then once you start driving, the amount of money starts tacking on. So that's how that works, okay? But we can model this and we can look at it and we can, you know, analyze the data and see, all right, well, how much are we going to spend if we, you know, drive various miles? So, okay. All right, so the cost of the taxi, oh, and we already did this, okay? What does the slope represent? The slope represents the cost per mile, okay? And remember that we wrote that as $1.75 per mile, okay? What does the y-intercept represent? Y-intercept represents the initial cost, okay? And the initial cost or initial fee, all right, is $3 to get in the cab, okay? So when you agree to get in the cab and go for a ride, then, you know, that's what you pay, all right? Okay, so let's go ahead. So that's that, all right? So, you know, it's important that we, you know, try to figure out what those things mean based on, you know, the information we got. All right, so let's take a look at the bottom one. Finding the slope and y-intercept of a line. The graph shows the membership of a student group where x represents the number of years since the group was formed and y represents the number of members. Find the slope and y-intercept. All right, so what I want to do is write that equation from these 2 points. All right, so I'm going to come in here. I got 238 and 580. So 2, 38 and 5, 80. Okay, and let me just verify that those are the right points. Okay. All right, so now what I want to do, I'm going to label this as x1, y1, x2, y2. So my slope is going to be 80 minus 38 over 5 minus 2. So 80 minus 38 is going to give us 42. So our slope is equal to 42 divided by 3. So let's divide that by 3. Okay, and our slope we end up getting is equal to 14. All right, so that's our slope. Okay, and then what we want to do is find our y-intercept. So I'm just going to use this first point here, 2 comma 38. And so I'm going to write that x is equal to 2 and that y is equal to 38. All right, so I'm going to use y equals mx plus b to write that out. Okay, and I'm going to get 38 is equal to 14 times 2 plus b. All right, 14 times 2 is 28 plus b, and that's equal to 38. So I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides. Okay, and I get that 10 is equal to b. All right, so we can write our our equation here. Okay, and we're going to write this out as y is equal to 14x plus 10. Okay, and that's our equation. Okay, so we have our slope, we have our y-intercept. Okay, slope, y-intercept. Now what I want you to do is think about it like this. Okay, what does m represent? Okay, what does your y-intercept represent? Okay, now remember that x represents years. Okay, and then y represents the number of members in a group, so number of members. Okay, so if I write this out, you know, my slope is 14 members. Okay, that's my y value, change in y, divided by your change in x over 1 year. Okay, then what I can realize is that my slope m represents 14 members per year. Okay, and this is 14 members per year join the group. Okay, and then your y-intercept is going to be, it's the value here, and remember that that's 0 and then comma 10. So 0, 10 represents the initial amount of members. So the initial amount of members. Okay? And you can also say that another way. You could say that B is the, 10 members started the group. Okay? And so, what I'm doing, guys, is I'm taking this information and I'm drawing conclusions from it. Okay, I'm taking, the slope and the y-intercept, and I'm putting that information in context so that I can, draw some conclusions about this situation. All right, and so that's what I'm doing. All right, so that's the expectation, is that we do the same. Okay, all right, let's go to the next page. Okay, so on this next page, we're still looking at this same problem where we've got membership of a student group is expressed by the equation y equals 14x plus 10, where x represents the number of years since the group was formed and y represents the number of members. Okay, we found out the y-intercept when x is 0 shows that the initial membership was 10. The question is, how many members did the group have after 4 years? So remember, all right, that x represents members, how many members, and y represents, that's switched, sorry. That y represents members, okay, and x represents years, okay. So when it wants to know how many members, okay, we're trying to figure out what y is, did the group have after 4 years. So y is equal to what when x equals 4, okay. And all I'm doing is I'm reading this and going, okay, what was my x value? What was my y value? What do I know? What do I not know? Okay. Now I'm going to use that equation and I'm going to write y is equal to 14 times 4 plus 10. I'm just going to plug in 4 for x. Okay. So what I'm going to get is I'm going to do 14 times 4, and that's going to give me 56 plus 10. So y is equal to 56 plus 10, and so you get y is equal to 66 members. Okay. Now the thing of it is that, even though you had a graph, okay, let's go over here to 4 years. All right. And at 4 years, we go up to the graph here. What's that y value? Okay. that's something that you can't readily tell from the graph. You can get in the ballpark, but you're not going to get as exact as you would if you had the equation. So that's why the equation is really powerful, because you can really calculate and do whatever you want. The visual representation will only show you so much, but the equation will tell you a lot more. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. Okay. Justin bought a share of stock in a cell phone company. 4 weeks after his purchase, the price of the share was $78.61. 14 weeks after his purchase, the price was $71.71. Okay, so what we want to do is ask, what is the input? Okay, so what is the x value? All right. And then what is the output? What is the y value? Now, what I know is that we have a relationship, okay? We have a stock. The price of a stock depends on the week, okay? So what is the input? X represents weeks, okay? Time in weeks. Y represents the price of the stock. Okay, and what I want to do is on this, I want to list the ordered pairs based on the information in this problem. Okay, so 4 weeks. So when X is 4 weeks, okay, the price of the stock was $78.61. Okay, so $78.61. Okay, so that's going to translate to the point 4 comma 78.61. Okay, now over here it says, I think it was 14 weeks. Okay, so 14 weeks later, okay, so 14 weeks, the price of the stock was $71.71. So what this does is this is going to then translate to the point 14 comma $71.71. Okay. All right, so now on the last question, it wants us to take this information. Okay, so we took all that and we generated the points for 78.61 and 14.71.71. Okay, what we want to do is we want to first calculate the slope between those 2 points. What does the slope represent? Let's calculate the y-intercept, and then what does that represent? So over here, let's not find the slope. Let's find the equation of the situation, okay? And so I'm going to do this. I've got 4 comma 78.61, and I've got 14 comma 71.71, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this as x1, y1, x2, y2, all right? So my slope m is going to give me 71.71 minus 78.61 divided by 14 minus 4, okay? So here's what we're going to get, okay? Let me put this in the calculator. So 71.71 minus 78.61, okay, gives us negative 6.9, okay? So m is going to equal negative 6.9, and then we're going to divide that by 10. Okay, so if I take that number and I continue to divide that number by 10, okay, that's going to give me that my slope, m, is equal to negative 0.69. Okay, now let's think about what this means, okay? Remember that when I wrote this, my numerator was cost, or the price of the stock. Okay, and then this was weeks. Okay, so what this, all right, so we'll come back to that. I just want to get the slope down, okay? And then let's use one of these points, okay? So I got my slope is equal to negative 0.69. My x value that we'll start with is 4. And my y value that we start with is 78.61, okay? Now what I want to do is I'm going to plug this into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to put in $78.61, and that's going to equal a slope of negative 0.69 times 4, and then plus b. Okay, I don't know what b is. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to do negative 0.69. I'm going to multiply that by 4. Okay, and that's going to give me negative 2.76. So negative 2.76 plus b is equal to $78.61. Okay, I'm going to add $2.76. Okay, and so I'm going to end up with b is equal to, so 2.76 plus 78.61, and that's going to give me a value of 81.37. Okay, all right, so I have my slope, I have my y-intercept. Okay, and let's just write that equation over here. I'm going to write that y is equal to negative 0.69x and then plus 81.37, okay? And that's my value. Now, the slope represents what? Okay, now let's talk. All right, so we had what do we have? I'm going to start over here with this, okay? I had negative 6.9, and this is dollars. This is my price of the stock, okay, over 10 weeks, okay? So when I'm here, okay, I want to put this into a unit rate. So I'm going to divide by 10, and this is negative 0.69. This is the amount of money, this is the price of the stock per week. Now, what we know is that the price of the stock is decreasing, okay, because we have a negative value. So we can say that the price of the stock is decreasing at a rate of 69 cents per week. Okay? And that's what's happening. So every week what's happening is that the value is going down. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept, you know, was 81.37. Okay, so when x equals 0, y equals $81.37. And what this represents is the initial price of the stock when purchased. Okay? And so that's what we've got. So when you know, when Justin bought this stock, it cost $81.37. Now after 14 weeks, okay, Justin's lost quite a bit of money. He's lost almost $10, okay? So now the question asks, okay, if this relationship continues, what would be the price of the stock after 10 weeks? So remember that Y is price, okay? X is weeks, okay? And we want to find the price, we want to find Y when X is equal to 10. So I'm going to use this equation, Y equals negative 0.69 times 10 plus 81.37. All right, let me just make sure that I'm right here, okay? And let's go ahead and put those in. So here's what I get. I get Y is equal to negative 6.9 plus $81.37. So if I take 81.37 and I subtract 6.9 from that, that's going to give me that Y is equal to $74.47. And that's our answer, okay? So that's what we're doing. All right, so kind of a lot of information. We have some word problems, some application problems, but, you know, it's a lot of good stuff. And it's a lot of stuff that you guys, you know, you will use a lot, okay? So it's important. This is a really, really important section. So you guys doing great, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.